My girlfriend texted, "I found someone else. I want nothing more to do with you." I replied, "As you wish." Then I blocked her cards and stopped funding her lifestyle. 48 hours later, her attorney was frantically reaching out to me. I'm 31, male. I run a successful logistics consulting firm built from nothing. Started mid-20s with a secondhand laptop, overwhelming anxiety, and an impossible dream. First years were brutal. 80-hour weeks, cheap noodles, sleeping on an air mattress in a moldy studio apartment. Every penny went back into the business. The breakthrough came 2 years ago when I landed a major contract with a manufacturing company, struggling with supply chain inefficiencies. Then another, then 3 more. My niche expertise in streamlining complex logistics operations became incredibly valuable. Annual revenue now sits around $220,000, finally affording the comfortable lifestyle I'd worked toward. For 2.5 years, that comfortable life included my girlfriend, Madison Pierce, 28. I met her at a coffee shop near the art museum where she'd attended a networking event. She worked as a dental office receptionist, but her true passion was art history. She dreamed of becoming a fine arts curator, had genuine knowledge about contemporary movements, and spoke about gallery spaces with reverence others reserve for churches. The curator path was extremely expensive and challenging. She needed unpaid internships, continuing education, networking events requiring proper attire, and connections she didn't have. The art world, as she explained, was built on relationships and reputation, things requiring significant time and money to cultivate properly. I was completely smitten from the start. Madison brought vibrant color to my monochrome world of spreadsheets and logistics algorithms. She'd drag me to gallery openings, where I'd listen to her analyze brushwork with genuine expertise and passion. For the first time since starting my business, I felt I had something worth working toward beyond financial success. After 6 months of dating seriously, watching her stress about money while maintaining her day job and pursuing her dream, I made what seemed like a logical business decision. I proposed a comprehensive partnership. She would quit her soul-crushing receptionist job, focus completely on art history studies, take unpaid gallery internships, and network extensively. I would cover absolutely everything: rent, car payment, living expenses, professional development costs completely. From my perspective, it was an investment in our shared future together. I'd finally reached a point where my income could easily support 2 people comfortably, and helping someone I loved achieve their dreams felt like the ultimate partnership expression. Looking back now, I confused being generous with being strategic. The financial arrangement was completely straightforward. I found her a beautiful downtown loft apartment, specifically chosen carefully to reflect her artistic sensibilities. Exposed brick walls, huge windows, walking distance to the gallery district. Rent was $2,800 monthly. I co-signed an Audi A4 lease, a professional-looking car appropriate for someone building an arts career, $650 monthly payment. Beyond that came her complete wardrobe refresh for gallery events, organic groceries, expensive art supplies, and miscellaneous lifestyle expenses. I gave her 2 credit cards as authorized user on my accounts, never checked statements once. As someone who spent professional life managing complex financial details for other companies, I deliberately chose to trust completely in personal life. The irony wasn't lost on me later. Our 2.5-year anniversary fell on Tuesday in October. I'd made dinner reservations at Meridian, an upscale restaurant she'd wanted to try for months, the kind of place where art collectors and gallery owners gathered for business dinners. I'd spent considerable time selecting a beautiful, expensive sapphire necklace from downtown jewelry store, a $3,500, which felt appropriate for celebrating what I thought was our stable, committed relationship. I decided to surprise her by coming home quite early to present the gift before dinner. My last client meeting finished ahead of schedule, and I was genuinely excited about the evening. Madison had been working late at her gallery internship more frequently, and I thought surprising her would be romantic. She wasn't there. At 7:15 p.m., just as I started worrying about our dinner reservation, my phone buzzed. "Lucas, I found someone better than you. I don't want to be..." That was it. The message appeared cut off mid-sentence, but meaning was crystal clear. After 2.5 years of me underwriting her entire existence, bankrolling her dreams, and supporting her career development, that's what I received. 7 words dismissing our relationship like a terminated business transaction. I stared at the screen for several minutes. Initial shock felt like a physical blow, leaving me hollow and breathless. There was a moment where I almost typed frantic questions. Why now? Who was this other person? What had I done wrong? Had our entire relationship been some elaborate financial arrangement in her mind? But then something unexpected happened. Strange, cold clarity washed over me. The same analytical mindset that kicked in when clients presented complex problems requiring immediate solutions. The brutal finality of her words was oddly a gift, completely unambiguous. She had drawn a clear line. She wanted nothing more to do with me. I texted back simply, "As you wish." Then I put my phone on silent and opened my laptop. The methodical part of my brain took complete control, like switching from emotional partner to professional consultant. I had a problem, a terminated, non-binding personal arrangement with significant financial entanglements. The solution was obvious. Dissolve all associated. Financial ties immediately and comprehensively. First, credit cards. I logged into my banking portal and removed Madison as authorized user from both accounts. The system confirmed immediate deactivation. Her spending power vanished instantly. Next, the car lease. I accessed the auto finance portal. While the lease was in my name as primary signer, I couldn't terminate it instantly, but the next automatic payment was scheduled for the following week. I canceled the automatic payment authorization. The apartment lease required more careful handling. I located the rental agreement PDF and reviewed the termination clause. It required 60 days written notice and a 2-month rent penalty. Annoying, but financially manageable. I drafted a formal email to property management invoking the early termination clause. Streaming services and subscriptions came next. Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, Premium, her boutique gym membership, the organic meal kit delivery service. I systematically changed passwords and removed her profile from each account. Finally, her phone. She was on my family plan, an arrangement that seemed practical when we were building a life together. I initiated the process to remove her line. The entire process took exactly 45 minutes of focused work. When I finished, I felt nothing. Just empty. Mechanical. I packed an overnight bag, carefully placed the $3,500 sapphire necklace on the kitchen counter where she'd definitely see it, and drove to my brother Justin's apartment. I didn't want to be there when she inevitably returned for belongings. Justin Crawford, my younger brother at 29, runs a successful marketing agency and has always been the emotional intelligence to my analytical brain. When I showed up at his door Tuesday night with an overnight bag and shell-shocked expression, he didn't ask questions, just handed me a beer, pointed to his couch, and said, "Talk when ready." I wasn't ready for 3 days. During those 3 days of silence from Madison, I found myself analyzing the situation like a complex logistics problem. The emotional numbness was helpful. It allowed me to see patterns I'd been blind to. I'd been so focused on being supportive that I'd missed warning signs. Looking back through text messages on my phone, I could see subtle shifts. 6 months ago, Madison's text had been full of excitement about gallery events we'd attend together, artist talks she wanted to share, genuine appreciation for opportunities my support provided. Gradually, those messages evolved into logistics coordination, when money would be transferred, which bills needed paying, scheduling around her busy social calendar. The most telling pattern was how she'd started referring to my apartment, my car, and my lifestyle in conversations with friends when she thought I wasn't listening. What I'd intended as partnership investment had become, in her mind, simply her life that I funded. Friday afternoon, exactly as predicted, her credit cards were declined somewhere important. The text started immediately. "Lucas, what's going on? My card isn't working." "Seriously, this is embarrassing. I'm at lunch with gallery contacts and my card was declined. I called the bank. They said I'm not an authorized user anymore. This is some mistake." I read each message but didn't respond. Then came phone calls, 6 missed calls in 2 hours. I'd set her number to silent, but watched them light up my screen like a countdown timer. By evening, the tone shifted dramatically. "I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but this is seriously messed up." You can't just cut off my access to money because you're upset. We need to talk like adults. Damien says what you're doing might be illegal. Financial abuse is a real thing, Lucas. That last message was particularly interesting. So, the mysterious someone better had a name, Damien, and apparently fancied himself a legal expert. I screenshotted every message and started a folder labeled Documentation. Old habits from business. Saturday brought escalation. Madison had apparently tried to return to the apartment and discovered the locks had been changed as part of lease termination process. Property manager Carol called me directly. Mr. Crawford, I've got a situation. A young woman claiming to be your girlfriend is demanding access to Unit 4B with some guy who says he's calling his lawyer. They're making quite a scene in the lobby. I explained the situation briefly. Relationship terminated, lease legally terminated, no authorized access for anyone not on the lease. Carol, a veteran property manager who dealt with plenty of breakup drama, handled it professionally. Understood completely. I've seen this before. They're trespassed now. If they come back, I'm calling police. Sunday morning brought something unexpected. A formal email from a law firm. Subject, urgent legal matter regarding Madison Pierce. It was from Stevens & Associates, a downtown firm I'd never heard of. The language was deliberately intimidating. Dear Mr. Crawford, we represent Ms. Madison Pierce in matters relating to your summary and malicious cessation of established financial support. Ms. Pierce has suffered significant professional and emotional damages due to your abrupt termination of what she reasonably understood to be ongoing financial commitments. We demand immediate contact to resolve this matter before pursuing legal remedies. I stared at that email for a long time. Malicious cessation of established financial support, as if I were some business entity with contractual obligations, rather than a boyfriend who'd been dumped via text message. Justin found me reading it for the 4th time Sunday evening. You need to get your own lawyer, he said simply. Like, immediately. Monday morning, I called my dad's business attorney, Mr. Anderson. He'd handled incorporation papers for my consulting firm and had always struck me as sharp and no nonsense. When I explained the situation, there was a long pause. Well, son, he said finally, his voice carrying amusement and professional interest. It appears you've encountered a new species of predator. Mr. Anderson agreed to take the case and asked me to forward all documentation. Don't respond to anything from their office. Don't contact Madison directly. And definitely don't let this rattle you. What they're describing isn't legally actionable. Tuesday brought a follow-up letter from Stevens & Associates, this time with more specific demands. They wanted a confidential settlement to avoid lengthy and public litigation. The terms were breathtaking in their audacity. Continue paying Madison's rent and car payment for 6 months as transitional support, plus $20,000 in cash for emotional distress and professional opportunity costs. They were essentially demanding $47,000 for the privilege of having been dumped. Mr. Anderson's response was swift and surgical. He replied that since Madison and I had never been married, held no joint assets, and had no binding financial agreements, the relationship, and all voluntary financial support associated with it, had been terminated by Madison herself via text message. He concluded by noting that any further communication should be directed through him, and that we had the comprehensive documentation of the relationship's termination. The silence that followed was telling. Meanwhile, real consequences were beginning to manifest in Madison's life. The Audi dealership called me directly about the missed payment. As primary leaseholder, I was responsible for the vehicle, but I had options. I could either bring payments current or allow the car to be repossessed. The financial impact to my credit would be minimal, one late payment on an otherwise pristine credit history. I chose a third option. I paid the outstanding amount and informed the dealer I wanted to exercise the early termination clause. It would cost me a penalty, but it would cleanly end my financial obligation and leave Madison without transportation she couldn't afford. The apartment situation resolved itself when the 60-day notice period expired. Madison had apparently been staying with Damien, but according to Carol's updates, they'd been by several times trying to collect belongings. Each time, Carol had correctly informed them that without keys or lease authorization, they had no legal access. By the end of that week, I found myself in an odd state of professional satisfaction. I had identified a problem, implemented a solution, and watched it execute exactly as planned. The The emotional pain was still there, but it was contained within a framework of logical process. What I hadn't anticipated was how quickly word would spread through my professional network. The logistics consulting world in our mid-sized city operates like a small town. When dealing with supply chain problems for major manufacturers, reputation and reliability are everything. My business partner, Jake Morrison, called Thursday morning. "Lucas, heard you had personal drama. Everything okay with the Peterson contract?" I'd worked with Jake for 3 years on industrial projects. He was the guy who noticed when something was off and understood the connection between personal stability and professional performance. "Personal situation got resolved quickly," I told him. "Nothing impacts our work." "Good. Some woman's lawyer is asking questions about your finances. Wanted you to know it's making rounds." That conversation bothered me more than expected. In our industry, financial irregularities could torpedo business relationships. If clients thought I was involved in litigation, it could impact my ability to land contracts. I called Mr. Anderson immediately. "How exactly is Madison's lawyer asking questions about my finances?" "Fishing expedition," he said. "They're trying to establish that you have significant assets, which would justify their settlement demand. Amateur hour legal strategy." "Can they access my business records?" "Not without a subpoena, and they'd need grounds for a lawsuit to get one. Right now, they're making noise, hoping you'll pay to make it stop." That weekend, I made a decision that would prove crucial. I started documenting everything systematically, treating it like a business case study. I created detailed financial analysis of exactly how much I'd invested in Madison's life over 2.5 years. The numbers were absolutely staggering when laid out. Monthly apartment rent, $2,830 months, there are $84,000 car lease payments, $650 30 months, February 19th, 500 credit card expenses, estimated average 1,200 month, $36,000 miscellaneous support, groceries, clothes, entertainment, $24,000 professional development costs, conferences, networking events, $8,500 total investment, $172,000. I'd essentially provided Madison with a $69,000 annual salary for pursuing her dream job. At 28, she'd been living a lifestyle most people her age couldn't afford with full-time employment. Monday brought escalation. Madison decided to bypass lawyers and appeal to me directly. She showed up at my office building. Rebecca buzzed me. "Mr. Crawford, there's a woman in the lobby asking to see you. Says her name is Madison. She seems upset." I looked down from my window and saw her pacing in the parking lot, talking animatedly on her phone. Even from that distance, I could read the body language: frustration, desperation, anger. "Tell security she's not authorized to be here. If she refuses to leave, they should call police for trespassing." 20 minutes later, Rebecca buzzed again. She left, but was shouting something about financial abuse and how you're going to regret this. That afternoon, I received what would become the most damaging evidence in Madison's downfall. She'd posted a lengthy Instagram story, complete with tearful selfies, describing her escape from a financially abusive relationship. The post was masterful, manipulative storytelling. She portrayed herself as a victim trapped by my financial support, unable to leave because she'd become dependent on my controlling behavior. She thanked supporters for helping her find strength to leave and asked for privacy during her healing process. What made it particularly galling was the complete reversal of reality. I hadn't trapped her. I'd funded her freedom to pursue exactly the career she wanted. The controlling behavior referenced consisted of paying her bills without question. But the post was strategically brilliant. It painted her as brave survivor, and me as predatory older man who'd used financial leverage to control a younger woman. In the current social climate, that narrative would be accepted by people who didn't know actual facts. I screenshot the story and sent it to Mr. Anderson. His response was immediate. "This is defamation. We now have grounds for countersuit if they pursue legal action." Wednesday brought an unexpected ally. Brooke Martinez, a junior curator at Metropolitan Gallery, where Madison had been interning, reached out via LinkedIn. "Hi, Lucas. Hope you don't mind me contacting you directly. I saw Madison's Instagram post and wanted you to know that not everyone believes her version. Those of us who work with her know exactly what her living situation was, and we know you were incredibly generous. What she's doing isn't right." That message led to a conversation providing crucial context I'd been missing. According to Brooke, Madison had been bragging about her lifestyle to coworkers for months. She'd described me as her sponsor, who was investing in her career development. She'd shown off expensive purchases, talked about her luxury apartment, and made comments about how smart she was to find someone willing to fund her dreams. She literally said, "Why should I work some dead-end job when I can focus full-time on building my career?" Brooke told me. Everyone knew the situation. No one thought you were controlling her. We thought she was incredibly lucky. More damaging to Madison's narrative was what happened since our breakup. According to Brooke, Madison had been bringing her new boyfriend Damien to gallery events, introducing him as a successful real estate developer who was much more ambitious than her previous relationship. Everyone in our industry talks. Damien Foster isn't a developer. He's a commission-based real estate agent who drives a leased BMW and lives in a studio apartment. We looked him up after the first event. His social media is smoke and mirrors. This reframed everything. Madison hadn't left me for someone better in any objective sense. She'd left me for someone who projected success but couldn't actually provide the lifestyle I'd been funding. "There's something else," Brooke added. Gallery director Patricia Healy is not happy about the Instagram post. She thinks it's unprofessional and reflects poorly on the gallery to have an intern publicly involved in this drama. That Friday, consequences of Madison's social media strategy began to manifest. Patricia Healy called Madison into a meeting and informed her that her internship would be ending early. According to Brooke's follow-up, the decision was based on concerns about professional judgment and public representations that don't align with gallery values. The art world, as Madison once explained to me, was built on relationships and reputation. By publicly characterizing herself as victim of financial abuse, she'd created exactly the drama that serious institutions avoid. No gallery wanted association with someone who might bring legal or public relations problems. By week's end, Madison had lost both her internship and credibility in the local art scene. The community connections she'd spent 2.5 years building with my financial support had been destroyed by a single Instagram post. The final chapter unfolded over the following month in ways I never anticipated. What started as a simple breakup had evolved into a case study in consequences, both natural and self-inflicted. 2 weeks after Madison lost her gallery internship, Mr. Anderson received fascinating correspondence, not from Stevens and Associates, but from Madison's father, Mr. Pierce. He'd found Mr. Anderson's contact information and requested a private meeting. Against my initial instincts, I agreed. Mr. Pierce was a soft-spoken man in his late 50s who worked as a high school principal. He arrived looking exhausted and embarrassed. What he told us provided missing context that explained everything. "I want to apologize for my daughter's behavior," he began. "Her mother and I are mortified by what she's done." According to Mr. Pierce, Madison had moved back home after her relationship with Damien imploded spectacularly. The financial pressure of supporting Madison's lifestyle without my resources proved impossible for Damien. His real estate commissions were inconsistent, and he'd been financing his flashy lifestyle through credit cards. When Madison expected him to maintain the standard I'd provided, their relationship collapsed within 3 weeks. "She came home broke, angry, and entitled," Mr. Pierce explained. "She expected us to pick up where you left off, paying for apartment, car, lifestyle. When we said she needed a job like everyone else, she accused us of not supporting her dreams." The conversation revealed a pattern that extended far beyond our relationship. Madison had a history of finding people willing to fund her ambitions, then discarding them when better opportunities appeared. I wasn't her first sponsor. I was simply the most generous. "What she posted about you online," Mr. Pierce continued, voice heavy with shame, "it's not just wrong, it's vicious. You supported her dreams for over 2 years. You never controlled her, never limited her freedom. You gave her more freedom than she'd ever had." This voluntary testimony from her own father was devastating to any remaining credibility Madison might have had. "Madison destroyed her relationship with Damien by constantly comparing him to you," Mr. Pierce added. "She told him about the apartment, car, credit cards, lifestyle you'd provided. She expected him to match that immediately. When he couldn't, she called him a failure." The irony was profound. Madison had left me for someone she thought was better, then sabotaged that relationship by holding it to standards I'd set. 3 weeks later, I received an unexpected call from business partner Jake. "Lucas, you need to hear this. Remember that Peterson manufacturing contract? They specifically requested you for project lead." "Why specifically me?" "Word got around about how you handled your personal situation. Clean, professional, no drama. Peterson's CEO said he respects someone who can solve problems systematically without letting emotions drive decisions." This was a revelation I hadn't anticipated. My methodical approach to dissolving the relationship, treating it like a business problem requiring logical solutions, had enhanced my professional reputation. In a world where personal drama often spills into professional settings, my ability to compartmentalize and execute cleanly was seen as valuable. The Peterson contract was worth $180,000 over 18 months. Madison's attempt to damage my reputation inadvertently led to the largest single contract of my career. Meanwhile, according to Brooks' updates, Madison's situation continued deteriorating. Word of her unprofessional conduct spread throughout the local gallery network. The combination of her Instagram post, early termination from Metropolitan Gallery, and reputation for financial opportunism made her essentially unemployable in the field she'd spent 2.5 years trying to enter. "No one will touch her now," Brooke told me. "The art world is small and built on trust. When someone proves they'll publicly air grievances and create drama, galleries avoid them." 4 weeks after our last legal communication, Mr. Anderson received a final letter from Stevens & Associates. Single paragraph formally withdrawing all demands and confirming no further legal action would be pursued. No explanation, no settlement offer, just complete capitulation. "They realized they had no case," Mr. Anderson explained. "Worse, pursuing it would expose Madison to a defamation and countersuit she couldn't afford." 6 weeks after that fateful Tuesday evening text, I found myself in an unexpectedly positive position. My business was thriving, professional reputation stronger than ever, and I'd learned invaluable lessons about the difference between supporting someone's dreams and enabling dependency. The most important lesson was recognizing the distinction between partnership and patronage. True partnership involves mutual contribution, shared sacrifice, aligned incentives. What I'd provided Madison was patronage, a one-way financial relationship dressed up as romantic support. Justin helped me process this during our regular dinners. "You know what the real victory is?" he said. "You didn't let her behavior change who you are. You could have become cynical, bitter, closed off. Instead, you handled it with class and learned from it." He was right. I was still generous, still willing to support people I cared about. But now I understood the importance of reciprocity, accountability, and genuine partnership, rather than dependency. 3 months after the breakup, I received a LinkedIn message from Brenna Caldwell, a project manager at a logistics firm in Seattle. She'd heard about my Peterson contract work through industry channels and was interested in discussing collaboration. Our first video call was purely professional, but there was immediate intellectual connection. Brenna had built her own successful consulting practice and understood entrepreneurial life demands. More importantly, she was financially independent and looking for a partner, not a sponsor. 6 months later, when I felt ready to share the Madison story with Brenna, her response was telling. "That must have been incredibly painful, but sounds like you handled it exactly right. Clear boundaries, logical process, professional response. That tells me about your character." Looking back now, nearly a year later, I can see Madison actually did me a favor. Her brutal text forced me to confront uncomfortable truths about the relationship I'd been too invested to see clearly. Her subsequent behavior provided valuable lessons about entitlement, manipulation, and the importance of mutual respect. Justice, as I learned, isn't about revenge or punishment. It's about natural consequences playing out according to choices people make. Madison chose to treat our relationship as a financial transaction, discard it carelessly when she thought she'd found better terms, and publicly mischaracterize my support as abuse. The consequences, lost career opportunities, damaged reputation, financial instability, weren't punishments I imposed. They were natural results of her actions, witnessed and judged by her community according to their standards. I never heard from Madison again. I have absolutely no idea what she's doing now. and I am completely at peace with that. This is truly the complete end.